Hello everyone. Today we will discuss chapter 22, Harsha and his times. Harsha's kingdom. The Guptas, with their seat of power in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, ruled over north and western India for about 160 years till the middle of the 6th century AD. Then North India again split up into several kingdoms. The White Hunas established their supremacy over Kashmir, Punjab, and Western India from about AD 500 onwards. North and Western India passed under the control of about half a dozen feudatories who parceled out Gupta Empire among themselves. Gradually, one of these dynasties ruling at Taneshwar in Haryana extended its authority over all the other feudatories. The ruler brought it was Harshavardhana, AD 606 to 647. Harsha made Kanauj the seat of his power and therefrom extended his authority in all directions. During his period, Patliputra fell on bad days and Kanauj came in the forefront. How did this happen? Patliputra owed its power and importance to trade and commerce and widespread use of money. Tolls could be collected from the traders who came to the city from the east, west, north, and south by means of four rivers. But once money became scarce, trade declined, and officers and soldiers began to be paid through land grants. The city lost its importance. Power shifted to military camps, skandavaras. Military camps are known as skandavaras and places of strategic importance, which dominated long stretches of land acquired prominence. To this class belonged Kanauj. Situated in Farrukhabad district of Uttar Pradesh, it shot up into political prominence from the second half of the 6th century. Its emergence as a center of political power from Harsha onwards typifies the advent of the feudal age in North India, just as Patliputra largely represents the pre-feudal order. Fortification of places in the plains was far more difficult, but Kannauj was situated on an elevated area which was easily fortifiable. Located right in the middle of the Doab, it was well fortified in the 7th century. So, to exercise control over both the eastern and western wings of the Doab, soldiers could be moved by both land and water routes. The early history of Harsha's reign is constructed from a study of Banabhatta, who was his court poet and wrote a book called Harsha Charita. So, who wrote Harsha Charita? It's Banabhatta. This can be supplemented by the account of Chinese pilgrim Huan San, who visited India in the 7th century AD and stayed in the country for about 15 years. Harsha's inscriptions speak of various types of taxes and officials. Harsha is also called Harsha is called the last great Hindu emperor of North India, but such a characterization is only partly true, for his authority did not extend to the whole of the country though he established his hold practically over the whole of North India except Kashmir. Rajasthan, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Orissa were under his direct control, but his sphere of influence spread over much wider area. It seems that the peripheral states acknowledged his sovereignty. His southward march was stopped on the Narmada River by the Chalukyan king Pulakeshin, who ruled over great part of modern Karnataka and Maharashtra with its capital in Badami in most modern Bijapur district of Karnataka. Except this, Harsha did not face any serious opposition and succeeded in giving a measure of political unity to a large part of the country. Administration. Harsha governed his empire on the same lines as the Guptas did, except that his administration had become more feudal and decentralized. It is stated that Harsha had 1 lakh horses, 60,000 elephants. This seems to be astonishing because the Mauryas, who ruled over practically the whole of the country except the deep south, maintained only 30,000 cavalry and 9,000 elephants. Harsha could possess a large army only if He could mobilize the support of his feudatories at the time of war. Evidently, every feudatory contributed his quota of food, soldiers, and horses, and thus made the imperial army vast in numbers. Land grants continued to be made to priests for several special services rendered to the state. In addition, Harsha is credited with the grant of land to the officers by charters. These grants allowed the same concessions to priests as were allowed by the earlier grants. The Chinese pilgrim Huansang informs us that the revenues of Harsha were divided into four parts. One part was one part was earmarked for the expenditure of the king, the second for scholars, the third for endowment of officials and public servants, and a fourth for religious purposes. He also tells us that ministers and high officers of the state were endowed with land. The feudal practice of awarding and paying officers with grants of land seems to have begun under Harsha. This is naturally because we do not have too many coins issued by Harsha. In the empire of Harsha, law and order was not well maintained. The Chinese pilgrim Huansang, about whom special care may have been taken by the government, was robbed of his belongings, although he reports that, according to the laws of the land, severe punishments were inflicted for crime. Robbery was considered to be a second reason for which the right hand of the robber was amputated. But it seems that under the influence of Buddhism, the severity of punishment was mitigated and criminals were imprisoned for life. Huansang's account. The reign of Harsha is important on the account of the visits of Chinese pilgrim Huansang, who left China in AD 629 and traveled all the way to India. After a long stay in India, he returned to China in AD 645. He had come to study in the Buddhist University of Nalanda, situated in the district of the same name in Bihar, and to collect Buddhist texts from India. The pilgrim spent many years in Harsha's court and widely traveled in India. He vividly describes Harsha's court and life in those days. This account is much richer than that of Fahian. It sheds light on the economic and social life as well as religious sects of the period. The Chinese account shows that Patliputra was in a state of decline, so was Vaishali. On the other hand, Prayag and Kanauj in the Doab had become important. The Brahmanas as Kshatriyas are reported to have led a simple life, but the nobles and priests led a luxurious life. Huansang calls the Shudras agriculturalist, which is significant significant in the early texts. They are represented as serving the three higher varnas. The Chinese pilgrim take notices of untouchables such as scavengers, executioners, etc. They lived outside the villages and took garlic and onion. The untouchables announced their entry into the town by shouting loudly so that people might keep away from them. Buddhism and Nalanda. The Buddhists were divided into 18 sects in the time of Chinese pilgrim. The old centers of Buddhism had fallen on bad days. The most famous center was Nalanda, which maintained a great Buddhist university meant for Buddhist monks. It is said to have had as many as 10,000 students, all monks. They were taught Buddhist philosophy of the Mahayana. Although all the mounds of Nalanda have not been dug, excavations have exposed a very impressive complex of buildings. These buildings were raised and renovated over a period of 700 years from the 5th century AD. The buildings exposed by excavations do not have the capacity to accommodate 10,000 monks. In 670, another Chinese pilgrim, Itzing, visited Nalanda. He mentions only 3,000 monks living there. This is reasonable because even if the remaining mounds are excavated, the buildings could not be so spacious as to have accommodated 10,000 monks. The monastery at Nalanda was supported from the revenues of 200 villages. Nalanda thus had a huge monastic establishment in the time of Harshavardhana. Harsha followed a tolerant religious policy. A Shaiva in his early years, he gradually became a great patron of ബുദ്ധിസം. സോ ഹർഷ ആദ്യം ഒരു ശിവഭക്തനായിരുന്നു, പിന്നീട് അദ്ദേഹം ബുദ്ധിസത്തിലേക്ക് മാറി. ഓക്കെ, ഹി ഹെൽഡ് അറ്റ് പ്രയാഗ് എ ഗ്രേറ്റ് അസംബ്ലി വിച്ച് വാസ് അറ്റൻഡഡ് ബൈ ഓൾ ദി tributary princes, ministers, nobles, etc. On this occasion, an image of the Buddha was worshipped and discourages were given by Huansang. At the end, the Harsha made huge charities and he gave away everything except his personal clothing. Huansang speaks of Harsha in glowing terms. The king was kind, courteous, and helpful to him, and the pilgrim could visit the different parts of the empire. Harsha was a literary figure. He wrote 3 plays and he rewarded and patronized literary men. Banabhatta gives us a flattering account on the early years of his patron in his book Harsha Charita. Is an ornate tale which became a model for the later writers. Okay, thank you so much for listening me. We have completed chapter 22. In the next video, we will discuss chapter 23, formation of new states and rural expansion in the peninsula. Okay, see you next class. Thank you very much.